I only wish I could give back to society like you guys.
You will be. That's what this minute's all about.
Yeah. This is how we really give back to society.
It really is. Yeah. Teaching's more like a hobby. This is my job.
Right.
Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action, sci-fi, horror, suspense with a little bit of mystery at the bottom. Classic Predator, 1 minute at a time. I'm John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And I'm Scott Fogle.
Thank you for returning, Scott, to the show. It's been a while since you've been on, but we're glad you stuck around for another round.
Yes, thank you, Scott.
I'm excited and happy to be here.
Awesome. We're all happy that you're here, and it's always fun to have a guest.
Yeah, this is a good minute. We got another iconic line coming up. So many.
It's a good minute, but it's starting to mark something that made me sad a little bit, in that we're not seeing any living gorillas anymore in this minute. I think we've seen our last living gorilla. We see a little bit off-screen gunfire from above, but I don't think we're going to see any more live gorillas other than Anna, who's just kind of on the ground as an incapacitated hostage.
Should we have a quick eulogy to all of our favorite gorillas?
Sure, we could kick in the old... Actually, what would work right here would be the end of the movie Alan Silvestri score, where you hear the sad, lone trumpet playing as Arnold's about to be picked up by the chopper.
Yeah. So rest in... Let's see if I can do them in order. Rest in peace. I'll do them in order that they're introduced. So rest in peace, Moonbeam. Mm-hmm. Rest in peace, Little Smokey.
Little Smokey.
Little Smokey. Rest in peace, Juan Valdez.
Juan Valdez.
So funny. Rest in peace, the Red Baron.
Red Baron.
Rest in peace. Oh, Mars guy. Rest in peace, Mars
Get
guy.
your ass to Mars.
And get your ass to Mars. And rest in peace, Central American Mama Fratelli.
What the hell are we doing here?
Trusted your old mother, boys. Travel in the four-wheel drive and hold on to your hat.
Yes. Oh, don't forget Red Baron.
Red Baron.
Oh, didn't I get Red Baron? Oh, and Red Baron.
Red Baron.
And Red Baron.
How many times did that man die?
At least three. At least three.
So many times.
If I look back at the previous minutes before that last minute, I think minute 27, so 2 minutes ago. We might find him again. I don't know.
Well, we enjoyed our time with all of you fantastic gorillas, and we're sad to see you go.
Well, we still have a couple of them until the end of this minute, and that's the last of them, right?
That's true.
That's true. We just don't see him is what kind of makes me sad thinking about the end of this minute. But you can't think about the end. We need to talk about the beginning. So this is minute 29 of Predator. Minute 29 opens with Dutch calling Mac over for a chat, and ends with Dylan about to enter Sabine's old palapa.
A chat.
Chat. All right. So as per usual, Jeff, why don't you start us off with what's happening at the beginning of this minute?
Sure. Does it carry over from last minute?
Indeed, it carries over.
It carries over.
Last minute.
So at the end of the last minute, Dutch, we come into contact with the hostage. We'll later learn that her name is Anna, right? Anna.
Anna. We'll say Anna.
Anna. Okay, and he knocks her out with the butt of his gun. And so we get Arnold, and he runs over to the door of the palapa and shouts, and Mac comes over.
Mac!
And we get, you were saying this is one of the longest lines in the film, right?
Yeah. Just a few weeks ago, I was starting to compile the lines spoken by the characters in this movie. And I don't think it comes as a surprise that this is one of the longer lines, with Mac speaking for a good 5 or 6 seconds without any breaks and without any interruptions. I made a Google Excel spreadsheet of all the spoken dialogue, and some of the earlier scenes between the General, Dylan, and Dutch have some long exposition, but this is probably the longest exposition we see in the jungle so far.
We get kind of a big explanation here of essentially the battle is about over.
Battle.
And Mac is kind of the battle. The ass kicking is about over. And Mac is basically giving us a synopsis of what they have found. Should we do a dramatic line reading? Should we have our guests do a dramatic line reading? Do you have
that'd be great. Which one am I doing, Arnold or Mac?
Mac!
Oh, Scott, you have to. How about you do Mac?
I can do Mac.
And Jeff will be Dutch. So, Jeff, why don't you take it away? You be Dutch.
Any sign of the other hostage?
Found the other guy. He's dead too. And the gear from the chopper. But if they're Central American, well, I'm a goddamn Chinaman. From the looks of it, our cabinet minister was CIA. Another thing, Major, we were lucky. Other guys were waxed. Russian military advisors. Something very big was about to happen here.
Good work, Mac. Clear the area. No traces. Get the men ready to move.
Yes, sir.
And steam.
Nicely
Very
done.
nice.
Take a bow. That's impressive.
So, John, what can we? There's a lot of information here in this paragraph. What are the important points we can pull out from Mac's little synopsis here?
Well, the important little bits that we can come up with is that when you and I, Jeff, were breaking down exactly who they're killing in the guerrilla camp attack here, we're looking at some of the people and saying, well, they're not looking Central American, and Mac is confirming that there are these military advisors, these Soviet military advisors, meaning they're basically doing the same thing the CIA is doing from the other side. And that's something we see at the very beginning of the movie with the CIA presence working with the military of that country, whatever that country is. I think it's Guatemala. It's supposed to be in the beginning of the movie, versus they cross the border and now they come across these Soviet forces who are supplying and informing and training possibly these guerrilla fighters in this country, which is, I believe, supposed to be Valverde. But it's still leaving us with a little bit of a mystery, which I really like, which is why I said there's a little bit of mystery at the bottom, at the top of the minute, because all Mac is telling us is that something very big was going to happen here. He doesn't explain what. We're not going to really find out more details until the next couple of minutes. But it's a nice lead in from the destruction they just caused to what exactly were they destroying. So what do you guys think was going to happen here? He doesn't say what was going to happen. He just something very big was going to happen here. What if they hadn't attacked this camp? What was going to happen?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We're never going to find out. But if you guys had to predict, if you had to go through your kind of Cold War history, what do you think?
This is a good question.
Hey, thanks.
And, yeah, it's so good that I don't have a good response for you.
Okay.
I'm sensing drugs and weapons.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels. They leave it very, very ambiguous here in this paragraph, like you said, and I suppose that's by design. But you just get the feeling of an overall sense of like covert operations, right? Like we've heard over the years, when you research and look at the history of the Cold War, the United States, Russia, there are a lot of stories of the United States and Russia meddling in smaller countries' affairs, particularly when those countries might be leaning more towards a democracy or a communist state. So I think we're just supposed to understand that there's some Russian meddling happening here. This ties into what we've talked about with 80s movies needing that, Russian big bad Soviet presence. That the Soviets, aka the bad guys, here, and they are in the background playing puppeteer a little bit to this scenario. And perhaps that's all we're supposed to know as the audience. Just to know there's kind of a sinister motive happening.
I feel like that's the convenient theater of the mind aspect to taking advantage of those archetypes, right? You got big bad Soviets, and he can say something as simple as something very big was about to happen here, and you're left to make all the assumptions you want in a 3 to 4 second gap, and they don't have to color it any more than that.
Something pretty big was going to happen here.
Yeah, that's a good point. That a lot of this can just be chalked up to the movie magic of, hey, we stopped something big. What was it? Don't know. It's another like noodle incident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Kind of like when they refer back to Afghanistan, he said, trying to forget it.
Exactly.
Come on.
Do you remember Afghanistan? Trying to forget it. Come on.
To Panchito, it's very similar. It's like we just prevented a big noodle incident. Whatever that was going to be, we just prevented it. And yeah, like you all are saying, it's preventing one side's meddling in favor of another side's. In this case, it's the U.S. Whether that's something Dutch and his team were aware of or not. And I'm going to go ahead and just argue right now that Dutch fully well knew that he was diving into something more than he signed up for, but he's doing it much more as a favor for his friend Dylan.
As an audience member, you get that impression from him, almost from the very beginning of the film.
Well, you even note in your notes about the minute when he does that reflective look after he talks to Mac, where he's angry and kind of questioning what's happening. He's also probably a little pissed at himself because he knew this was an eventuality, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you give that kid in class a little bit of extra leniency, a rope, and they just kind of let you down, but you're like, I'm still mad about it. Like,
the next thing you know, he's raiding a gorilla camp.
and you're throwing him against the wall saying, I don't do this kind of work.
Sneak around.
We're a rescue team, not assassins.
We're a rescue team, not assassins.
Should we discuss Mac's casual racism towards Asian people here?
Yeah, he uses a term Chinaman that is over the last however many years.
I'm always surprised when I guess I'm not that surprised, but I'm a little surprised when these types of things show up. It doesn't feel that long ago to me. I guess I'm getting old, but it feels like it's not long enough that someone reading the script would be like, maybe we should change the word Chinaman to something else.
Yeah.
And like all the people that read the script were like, nope, that's fine. And I would, one could argue maybe that's a choice. Like that's his character. He does have this casual racism towards Asians, but I don't actually think so. I think that was just a term that was thrown around and no one really cared at the time.
I think you're right.
I feel like we should address it.
Same exact time as this movie came out, I specifically recall watching my mom and my grandpa argue about using those kind of terms at the Christmas dinner table. So
so maybe it was right around the period of transition, people dropping that word.
Blaine uses the slur for homosexuals when he's in the chopper talking about the chewing tobacco. About that. Yeah. So in my headcanon, this is probably something maybe a soldier would genuinely say to another soldier, right? Knowing that they're on the battlefield, they just scrape by death by many bullets and explosions. But at the same time, the general audience doesn't need to be privy to that.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just blow up some more gorillas, please. Stop talking like that. Blow something up.
All right. So that's Mac's conversation. Did you guys have anything else, Mac? Anything else to add about this scene, the aesthetic of the scene, or any other details here that we didn't cover?
Sure, yeah. You have John McTiernan doing some of his visual directing, where Mac is explaining what's going on. He's doing his big exposition dump, and in the background, and in which transitions to its own cut scene, you have Dylan going through these boxes and taking out AK-47s, and these wooden boxes of AK-47s are next to these ammo boxes. You would know these right away. These little green boxes with the handles on the sides, just full of ammo. And it looks like some of the boxes close to the open flameage, not too far away from Dylan, have some army-like print on them. And there's actually a couple boxes and a couple minutes ago that said U.S. Army. I forgot to mention them before, but when Billy is gunning down the fake Red Baron 2 minutes ago, one of the boxes clearly says U.S. Army. Or maybe that was last minute. But anyway, we're seeing that visual stuff where he's saying something big is going to happen here. And you're seeing, the Soviets were clearly providing these Soviet-made weapons and ammo, maybe some rocket launchers.
I like the way Dylan pulls that rifle out of the box and kind of looks at it.
Mhm.
I don't know why that makes me smile, but he just kind of like holds it up and stares at it for a little bit, like he's never seen one before or something. But it's a quick little cut, and then it cuts away. Yeah.
Maybe it's that look of belief. Like, I can't believe like the thing that I thought was going to stop is like the real thing. Like, wow, like
Right.
turns out it was the right call after all.
When Jeff mentioned how he was picking up the rifle, it made me think of when Mac and Arnold were having their dialogue. I don't know if you noticed, but when Mac walks in, he's carrying the gun all wonky and like carrying his bullets in the other hand. He's holding it by its like forward handle. That just looks like a terrible idea because the gun's swinging around. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, but I mean, that's not ideal. You don't want the barrel just swinging by your face.
Speaking of the barrel, I hate how he plants it. He's totally just kind of spikes it in front of him and takes off his hat. And like when he spikes it in front of him and kneels down in front of Arnold, that barrel is like right under his chin. It's like it runs in the chamber and like something just jostles that trigger. Like we're having that predator cause death much earlier for Mac.
Yeah, he is way too casual with that loaded
I don't think
rifle.
Jetty or Blaine in this case would carry his gun like that, for instance.
No, he'd be just holding it at the hip.
You know, you might chalk it up to like they just went through this like high intensity, stressful battle, and now he's just sort of like strolling through the battlefield. He's just kind of hanging onto his gun, all casual, like I made it through that. What's going to stop me now? Type of attitude.
Yeah. I just took off the football pads after the big game. Just kind of
right. Exactly.
I didn't want to
that's
carry
what it
these
looks
things,
like.
so I just want to put them down somewhere.
Sorry for the sidetrack. That just as soon as you said that, it made me think of it.
Oh no, there's no sidetracking. This is all on track, all on brand.
Well, and what about the fire?
All right.
What about the fire? I mean, even John, you and I were joking about that. That's kind of ridiculous. Like that would be a priority to deal with, wouldn't it?
Yeah, especially as close
the
to
large fire right by the ammo.
Exactly. In the field guide, it says, "Please first put out the fire next to the ammo depot."
That's so true. Oh man, yeah, that is a hazard.
Yeah.
Like, that should be taken care of immediately. Right. And especially because the palapa walls are like made of straw.
Yes.
Like
explosive straw from what we've seen.
What I have to ask.
Right. Yeah.
Palapa. You guys have been using it like it's a word that's always been in my vernacular. Is that something you discovered like in the last few rounds? That's what this hut is called, a palapa?
Yeah, I can't remember. It was like minute 3 or 4 where we first see the general and Dylan in the hut on the beach, and I think I saw it in the script, or I just looked it up about that's what that kind of thatched roof building would be called. It would be called a palapa. So we saw them begin the movie kind of palapas, and we saw them blow a ton of them up. And I think what Alan Batchelder, a guest from 2 minutes ago, and I'm losing track of my minutes. A previous guest, Alan Batchelder, pointed out that palapa derives its name from pulp, as in they're using like the pulpy part of these big leaves as the structural pieces that they're using to build the huts.
Yeah, and the characters in the film even used the word when they were starting the firestorm down on the guerrilla camp. I can't remember who it was, but Dylan. He shouts. It was Dylan. Dylan. Fire at the center of the palapa.
Target's the center of the palapa.
Yeah.
So we get that line.
I apologize for the deja vu, but I'm all caught up now.
Oh, that's all right.
All good.
That's all right. All right. Should we move on to the next little cutscene? Because we get a nice iconic line here.
Oh, yeah. An iconic exchange for, I think, fans of this movie.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that, actually. But if I could just describe we cut away from Dutch. And we get another one of these awesome, like, stuff blowing up in a line as someone's running through the scene, which I always love.
Right at their feet, right at Panchito's feet.
Right at Panchito's feet. Doesn't get his ankles, doesn't get his chest. It's perfectly at his feet.
Yeah, and they know exactly where he's running because he's running from the background. It looks like he just ran along a path to that one spot.
Yeah.
And I watched those 2 seconds 3 or 4 times trying to be like, are there a line of firecrackers there? How does that work?
Like how do the squibs work? That's a good point.
Exactly. No, because it was so perfect. Yeah. Just along your feet, right?
Yeah.
It is perfect. It goes right along with him as he's running. Squibs, as I understand it, and I don't know if that's exactly what they use here, but squibs are generally filled with like fake blood, and squibs are generally set off by the stunt man that's wearing them. So like when you see a scene where someone is getting shot up by a gun and there's blood flying off of their chest, those are generally squibs that the actor himself is setting off with a trigger that's usually in his hand. For this scene, I'm not quite sure if that is the case. It looks like it might be a series of small like firecrackers or explosions that were just rigged to go off in a line. And they had Panchito just run across that line as they're firing. That's my best guess. Speaking as a professional stuntman.
Speaking as a professional squib man, yeah, I think that's
right.
That's probably how they should have done it at least. I mean, who knows?
Right. Yes.
That's how I would have done it. Yeah, but it's very effective. Yeah, you have a sense of probably as close as the guerrillas are going to come to actually tagging one of these team members. Well, except for we're going to learn here in the next couple seconds. They did kind of tag one of our team members. They tagged the big man.
So we get another little set of dialogue here once Panchito catches up to Blaine. Should we do another dramatic reading?
Yeah, you guys have to do the dramatic reading here. So I think, Scott, you have to, because you requested this minute, you have to speak from Blaine, and Jeff, why don't you be Panchito?
I'll try to be Panchito.
Yeah.
Okay.
Son of a bitch is dug in like an Alabama tick.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Huh. Okay. You got time to duck? And scene.
Yeah.
Big boom, grasping hat.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch is dug in like an Alabama tick.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Oh. Okay. You got time to duck?
Just a great all-around scene right here. Iconic scene, and I think an underrated line that Panchito gives in response to one of the top 2 or 3 iconic lines in this movie.
Okay, I'm really glad you say that it's underrated, because the line that everyone always remembers is "Ain't got time to bleed."
I ain't got time to bleed.
Which is a fantastic line.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's iconic for a reason, but underrated for sure is Panchito's reaction to him.
Oh. Okay.
Like when he says, "Huh, okay," I've seen this movie so many times, and that it never fails to make me laugh. Not just the line itself, but the look he gives him and the way he says it, and like the comedic pause. Like it is perfect comic timing. Like it in my mind, the reaction is almost better than the line itself.
Yeah, and Blaine catches a little of his like, "Huh, okay," and gives him a little side glance like, like that wasn't what I was expecting. Like, what's going to come next? And then, launches those grenades up there. I think 4 or 5 of them. And then, he gives him the retort. You got time to duck?
You got time to duck?
And then, like Scott said, just debris raining over Panchito. Panchito's just grinning like a madman, and
yes,
Jesse's ducking like he doesn't have time to catch.
Oh yeah, I love your point. You pointed out he almost comically doesn't react until like things are exploding. Like he didn't realize the 4 grenades shot into the air. But you guys brought up an awesome point. Jeff, you said you always noticed it and enjoyed the comedy in Pancho going, "Huh?" But I never ever noticed it until I read these notes and then looked at it. That just kind of always played right past my Neanderthal brain. I never noticed it, and it was damn funny to see, especially to see Blaine's reaction. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty priceless. I love how he just stands there looking at Panchito, even after Panchito has fired the grenade launcher and is running in undercover. Blaine's still just standing there, and is almost like an afterthought. Is like, "Oh yeah, I better take some cover."
Yeah, and this is I would say it's a good indication of their rapport, not only off screen as Vietnam vets, but in the movie. If you remember on the chopper ride, Blaine is saying, this stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. And Panchito responds by pointing the grenade launcher not towards him, but in the vicinity of Blaine, and says, strap this on your sore ass, Blaine. And then they all laugh and stuff. So they have that back and forth of, I'm going to say tough things. Yeah, but like, I'm going to actually speak with some action, with some grenades launched up there.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. Just like me.
Yeah, strap this on your sore ass, Blaine.
Yeah. What is an Alabama tick?
I did a little bit, because this is Predator Minute, I did a little bit of research on the most common Alabama ticks
Of course you did.
out there. And this
Is
information...
it in the same environment as an Alabama black snake?
An Alabama black snake. I don't know that one. Yeah. Are they going to have to cut that one, or you're going to have to explain that one?
It's a deeper reference from Apocalypse Now, I think. It's either what is that? No, Full Metal Jacket.
Oh,
One of those.
What we have here is a magnificent specimen of pure Alabama black snake.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. I thought I recognized that.
Go ahead and look it up, kids.
Google image that right there, right now. We'll wait. But according to the site Alabama Living, the three major species of Alabama tick are the deer tick, the American dog tick, and the Lone Star tick. And ticks can be, ticks can give you some nasty, nasty diseases. You have babesiosis, you have ehrlichiosis, Lyme disease, rickettsiosis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, tularemia, and my favorite is Southern Tick Associated Rash illness.
Ooh,
I just hear that it's like Southern Rash illness.
It sounds terrible.
All these sound not fun. And from what I was reading, like if a tick is dug in, the thing is not to burn it, because then it'll kind of melt into your skin, but you have to just tweeze that thing straight out, unless you have a custom made grenade launcher.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, man. This sounds like there's probably like a weird like subculture of YouTube videos dedicated to Alabama tick removal.
I did not watch any of these. I'm not going that deep in my research. Good God.
Good idea.
Well, you guys, I have a little bit of firsthand experience from dealing with not an Alabama tick. I think that was, well, no, seriously. I think Alabama tick is just a nice alliteration and sounds good, but the reality is ticks are very hard to get out of something. And we had our dog always got ticks when I lived in California because they were all over the place. And we removed no less. I personally have removed at least 20 from this dog. So they just are damn hard to get rid of correctly without causing a problem. So I think that's anyone who's dealt with that would immediately be like, oh, well, that rebel or that gorilla, he's in there really tight. It's going to be hard to get him out of there. They'll know immediately, right?
A good analogy, you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's great. So I love that comic timing there. He finally does duck underneath the brush with Panchito, and we get this nice kind of cascade of dirt coming down on them. And a nice delay, too. He fires the grenades up there, and it takes a couple seconds, and then we get a really satisfying explosion. And we assume that both of these gorillas are now deceased.
Yeah, but I guess my question here is, who are these gorillas? Are these Mars Guy?
Get your ass to Mars.
And like Red Baron Mark IV, who are apparently making their way like as quickly as they could, kind of like their Red Baron. I mean, I just don't understand who these are supposed to be. If it is the people who are running away just 10 seconds ago, they must be super, super fast. And if not, that means those guys actually escaped somehow.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think this might be a little bit of a continuity error, just for the sake of getting this interaction between Pancho and Blaine in. I watched the interview that you linked to, John, of Jesse Ventura talking about this scene. Scott, did you happen to watch that as well?
I did. Yeah, you're right. Keep going.
Yeah, no, so it sounds like that they filmed this little interaction, this scene, after the fact. And it wasn't originally going to be part of the storyboard of the whole sequence. So it would make sense that it feels a little out of place, or that it seems like we're not, we don't see any guerrillas up there. We're not really given any context. It seems like this is all happening after the battle is over. We've just had Mac come down the hill and Mac, and kind of give a synopsis of, in a sense, telling Dutch everything that's happened now that the battle is over. And now they cut back, and turns out back. Turns out there's 2 more guys that they need to kill as well. So it doesn't quite make sense fully, but if you watch that interview with Jesse Ventura, he talks about how he wanted to have this scene filmed with the 2 of them because they were both vets, Vietnam vets. And John, did you want to speak a little bit to McTiernan's reaction? Jesse Ventura talks about how he knew once this was filmed that it was going to be included in the movie.
Yeah, and before I talk about that, just a real quick aside, the way this scene is cut into the movie and the way it's talked about in the interview makes it seem like this is something that they added on to the movie. But this scene is in the original script, the way back before they started shooting, before they started improvising lines, before they knew who was in the movie. They had this little exchange between Pancho and Blaine, and in fact, Pancho's actually following Blaine's suggestion that they don't have all day to sit under this gunfire. Here's the line right here from the original script. Blaine still opens the same line. That some bitch dug in like an Alabama tick. He spits and he says, "Bastard could jack us around all day, except we don't have all day, Pancho." And then at that moment, right, Pancho catches the clue and launches the grenades up there. So that was interesting. That's in there way before a lot of this shooting goes down and any improvisation happens and casting and all that happens. But Blaine or Jesse Ventura had a good feeling that this was going to stay in the movie because he's saying John McTiernan, who's not normally an emotive kind of guy, and we hear that in the director commentary when I talk about it, he actually watched the scene and just walked away laughing and just knew, okay, if that's kind of reaction that we're getting from John McTiernan, then it has a good chance to stay in there.
That was a scene that had been originally cut. They weren't going to shoot it. And that I wanted it shot because Richard Chavez and I were both Vietnam veterans, and we wanted to do a scene together, the 2 actual veterans. We were the real veterans of the platoon. He was Army, I was Navy. And so Richard and I wanted to do that scene. Arnold got sick, so they resurrected the scene, and I knew it would get in the film because John McTiernan, the director, never showed any emotion. But when Richard shot the thing and everything, and he says, "You got time to duck," McTiernan walked away from that scene laughing. And he had never shown any emotion on any scene. So I said, that's going to be in the film because McTiernan found that extremely funny.
Yeah, because he says that McTiernan was not much of a reactive guy. Like, he didn't show a lot of emotion scene to scene, shot to shot, and the fact that he reacted so strongly to this particular scene when they filmed it said to him, oh, he's going to include this in the final cut.
Jesse Ventura, which is kind of disappointing, he says this is not his favorite line in the movie. He says his favorite line is, "Makes Cambodia look like Kansas," which is, I don't know, maybe he's trying to speak more to his Vietnam veteran cred, but it's the line that stuck around has been this one right here, that "I ain't got time to bleed."
In the interview, it seemed like Jesse was just being contrarian to a certain extent, like, oh, I'm not gonna...
I agree with you, Scott. That's what I was going to say too.
But yeah, the lack of continuity in that little spot makes sense. It fits in with the charm of that whole scene where you don't really understand the layout at all or what's happening. You just see people flying through the air, the same guy in multiple scenes.
Red Baron.
I think that the final outcome is just a normal genesis of what you're going to have in any movie. When you see a scene that's executed really well and the lines are perfect and all that stuff, you're going to shove it in there somehow, right? So it makes sense. I think it benefits the movie. So
it totally does. It builds the characters more. It's showing the team to be closer and closer and having familiarity, and
it's a rare moment of levity. Like, we get a little bit of humor there. Yeah.
And in the interview, I don't know if you noticed, but partway through the interview, like, Jesse turns his head a little bit and you can see his ears bleeding, which is hilarious. And everybody in the comments is making like, "Oh, look, he ain't got time to bleed.
I ain't got time to bleed."
So if you want to catch the interview, you just have to search up Jesse Ventura interview Graham Benzinger. He sits down for a few minutes, and it's segmented on YouTube. I don't know how long the actual full interview is, but there's a nice little chunk where he's talking about Predator and lines and his Hollywood career.
Yeah, and the other thing to note here is that Blaine, Jesse Ventura, does admit to having a wound, one of the only wounds that comes out of this battle, right?
Right.
Yeah, and you see, is it? I believe, is it all patched up at this point? Does he have like the white bandage on? I have to double check. Because you see it in a previous minute when he's firing. No, he doesn't have the bandage on yet.
I was going to say, I don't think he does. Yeah,
you see it a little bit later. I believe when they start breaking away from the camp, I think he has the white cloth over it and some blood staining through it.
Yeah, so this is really the only injury that any of our guys sustained from this battle.
You weren't aware. I mean, by the time this movie came out, guerrillas were basically the same as stormtroopers. They can't hit.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. Just no aim, just disorganized, just running into gunfire as often as they can. But Scott, you picked this minute, Scott, before we even started releasing episodes, long time ago, like 6 months ago, 7 months ago. Can you tell me a little bit about why you picked this minute, or what stood out to you about it?
I picked this minute based on,
the line.
Yeah, well, and it stems from that line. Trust me, when I brought it up originally, I wasn't like already thinking of the 60 seconds of this exact minute. But I think that speaks to why they kept that in the cut, right? It just is quintessentially what I recall from the movie. Like, one of my favorite parts of the movie is him saying that. It's perfect. So I think that's unfortunate. Like, although that's not super exciting, that's why I picked it. Like, I just love the line and the execution of that scene.
Yeah, it's great. It is great. It's a classic, and it's a masterpiece. Very memorable.
Yeah, it'd be fun to hear different people's takes on their favorite lines from the movie. Maybe that's something I'll put on the Facebook group. Hey, easy plug there. But I recently created a Facebook group for Predator Minute. It's called Predator Minute Listeners Palapa. So we mentioned that word Palapa a lot of times earlier on, and my brother Zach, who guested last minute, suggested that. That's what really stuck, and that we're going with now. So join it on Facebook if you like. Throw us your favorite Predator line if you like.
Yeah, anyone out there, come join the conversation. We've had a few people sign up. John, you've got a couple good threads going there on some good movie explosions and movie stunts, and that's been fun to have a little back and forth. I'd love to get more people on there having the conversation. Yeah.
By all means, anybody can start a conversation about whatever, Predator or Predator Minute or the Predator franchise, or just like your top recommends for the week, whatever those may be, your favorite stunts, like you said, explosions. But there's I'm not going to dive into the TV tropes, but just this line you could work into a lot of different characters in popular culture, whether they're superheroes or they're meant to be these kind of invincible figures. And I was wondering, have you guys ever been injured but not notice it until later, similar to what Blaine is possibly going through right now? I couldn't think of one for myself right away, but if you guys had like a, I don't know, fun little story or a nick on you that you didn't see till later, then and that's when you kind of freak out a little bit.
I know it's not exactly the same, but I actually was just talking with someone last week about this. If you're doing any sort of working out, whether it's weightlifting or running or whatever it is you're doing, and you get sore, and you know how you get really sore sometimes from doing something excessively? If you are...
Jeff?
What?
I don't exercise. I don't work out.
I don't exercise. Are you talking about masturbation?
No. No, I'm trying to make a serious, like, measurable reference, which is it's done. It's done. Never mind.
Oh no.
I'm just making a joke. Please go ahead.
Well, no, it's if you're significantly like sore somewhere, if you go and then you're doing the same thing again, like you're running again, even though you were sore, you don't really notice it while you're running or while you're doing the activity. You don't necessarily feel it when your brain's so busy doing all that other stuff. So I think it is natural to have that occur where you're too preoccupied with the most important things to your survival or whatever it is at the moment to notice that thing. It gets kind of deprioritized, right? I think your brain has the innate ability to do that. Like, okay, yes, ouchie, ouchie me, but I'm dead if I don't deal with this. So like it just puts it on the back burner for a minute.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Just that pain going away while you have to do work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, what about you?
Yeah. I don't know why I just had an Austrian accent there. The only good story I could think of was I broke a bone in my hand one time while I was skiing and didn't realize it for about a half an hour.
Oh.
Yeah, it was one of those dumb things too. This was like in my early 20s. Like I spent most of my teenage years when I was I'm a pretty avid skier, and when you're a teenager, you just do the dumbest shit. And I used to just throw myself down like steep hills and mogul fields and off jumps and small cliffs and stuff all the time with my buddies, with just no regard for my own personal safety. Never ever hurt myself. And then one day I was skiing down just a gentle cat track with a buddy of mine, and we were just goofing around and kind of bumped into each other, and my ski got caught up in his snowboard, and it made me kind of skid to a stop and fall over. And the way I fell, my hand got caught up in my ski pole and just twisted my wrist in the wrong direction. And I got a kind of a spiral fracture in one of my, I guess it's called a metacarpal, one of the bones in the back of your hand. And in the time I was like, when something like that, you're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right. We're good. And I just kept on going for another run or two. But soon my hand started swelling and really the pain started to hurt to the point that I was getting like lightheaded. And I was like, I need to go down to first aid. And turns out that I did, in fact, break a bone in the back of my hand. So that's my only experience with that, where my ego got in the way of an injury. So,
ouch.
Yeah,
ouch.
That's all I got.
No, that's mighty fine. That's a good one. And I know Scott is an avid skier too, so you guys could swap ski stories.
Yeah. I wish I could go more now, but my kids ruin everything, so I can't go as often as I used to be able to.
Darn kids.
Yeah,
just want to go skiing.
So John, that kind of rounds things out here. Did you have anything else to add at the very end of this minute?
Yeah, before we talk about Dylan running up to the palapa, which is really a non-scene until the next minute. The last couple of things I have is that Jesse Ventura titled a politics book, "I Ain't Got Time to Bleed, Reworking the Body Politic from the Bottom Up." So you can find that on different book sites and read some reviews and see what that's all about. I don't know.
Really working that line.
Really working that line, Jesse. If that's not your favorite line, you are a liar.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't name the book "Make Cambodia Look Like Kansas."
No, he did not, did he?
Right, because he don't want to offend the Kansas delegates.
That's right.
I'm telling you.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's not.
So I actually wrote something down, and I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I cracked up when I saw it earlier, and I just caught my note now. But when
cracked,
when Dutch are having their exchange, at the end of that exchange, Dutch gives him several commands, one of which is "no traces."
Good work, Mac. Clear the area. No traces. Get the men ready to move.
And after the exchange that just happened, okay.
I'm really glad you brought
that up.
No
traces. Destroyed. Grenades have been launched everywhere. We've shot 1,200 rounds of ammo. Like, what do you mean no traces?
No traces.
The minigun alone probably fired, 4,000 or 5,000 rounds. You'd be picking those up for days.
Oh my God! How about just the cleansing piece of the guerrillas? Like, come on, dude. What do you mean no traces?
No traces.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. I made a note about that, and we kind of glossed over it, and I forgot to bring it up again. But that is my favorite part of that paragraph. He's like, no traces.
No traces.
What? You just set the jungle on fire. Like,
no traces.
There's a black hole in the middle of the jungle.
No traces.
What do you mean, no traces?
We just ended 100 lives.
No traces.
Violently.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Make
no
it look
traces.
like an accident.
Yeah. Just throw some leaves over the top of it.
No traces.
Like
I know my suggestion there was
what is he
a bit of
talking
a
about?
continuity error in terms of this podcast, but I couldn't let it go. I had to remind myself.
No traces.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up.
That is
again.
a great point because I wrote that down. And I heard you guys saying it, and I thought, "Oh, that's kind of a silly thing to say." But even Mac just says, "All right," like puts on his hat. I want to see this cleanup duty. I want to see the 12 movies they had to make after this, just of them cleaning the jungle. Just
no traces.
No traces.
Done that scene Dexter style and like saran wrap the whole freaking jungle.
No traces.
You're gonna have some chases.
No traces.
Right.
Or even better, they like kind of prop up all the dead bodies in like the original positions. Like you have the
it's like Weekend at Bernie's 3, the gorilla camp.
You have Sven Ole Thorson like sitting up with the paperwork in his hand and sunglasses on.
No traces.
Oh my God. Oh, dude, no traces. That is actually fuck. I ain't got time to bleed. No traces is the best line.
I think that's an iconic line. No traces. All
no
right.
traces.
I can't wait to see how they clean this up in the next 3 hours. Right. But I think the last thing I have about Blaine is that his line,
I ain't got time to bleed,
sadly ties into his death in about 13 or 12 minutes later. It definitely foreshadows his fate in that he's saying he ain't got time to bleed. Well, the way he's killed, Dutch and Dylan make note that the wound is cauterized after he's blasted by the laser cannon on the Predator's shoulder, and he isn't bleeding at all after that wound is cauterized. So he is still not having time to bleed after he's killed.
I ain't got time to bleed.
That's a good point.
But I think that's all I have for the minute. Like we noted before, last half second of the minute, we just see Dylan running towards the palapa, and we don't even see his face, but we know it's him by the way he's running all giddily, like, we did it.
Dylan!
made the big find, the big reveal. And I have actually a typo on my kill count. Oh, can't believe it, because our update to the kill count is that we are not at 74 like last minute. We're actually at 77, adding on the 2 killed by the Panchito grenade in the great exchange between Panchito and Blaine. And then, of course, Mac mentioning that he found the other hostage killed.
Found the other guy. He's dead too.
So that puts us at now 8 good guys. Thank you very much. And so we have 8 good guys killed so far on screen or off screen implied, as well as 69 bad guys.
Are you guys running like next gen stats on this? So like we know how many like bad guys per minute and what the wins above or dead guys above replacement is.
Replacement value. I would say they're pretty much equal to replacement value if that's what they're showing us.
Especially when they use the same guy 3
probably
times.
Below replacement.
Yeah.
That guy's indestructible then. He has a high war. I love that guy. Red Baron. So yeah.
Red Baron.
Red Baron. So we're either killing off 2 leftover guerrillas in this minute and the unseen other hostage, or we're killing Mars Guy and Mars Guy Mark II, I think, and Red Baron Mark IV.
I think for your future,
really, it's
for your future count, Red Baron should have been one of the guys that was in the nest.
Red Baron.
You can't tell, so just count him.
I'm wondering too if like they had more of this explosion going on after Panchito launches the grenades up there. If maybe they added some stunt and then they thought, we don't have time to show these guys blowing up. But the way it's filmed, it's hard to tell. It also just kind of looks like they're detonating some leftover explosives on top of the mound.
I got nothing else. I think we've wrapped up this minute.
Awesome. So good wrap up, y'all. And this is the part of the show where we ask, what's something that you would recommend? Whether it's a movie or a show or an article of clothing that you're really finding comfortable these days. Maybe a new jock strap. Maybe some new shoes or some old shoes or a new sports team you're following because the current one is stinking it up. But Scott, you're the guest. What do you have in the way of recommends for us?
All right, recommends. Now, some of it may be behind the times, but since everything's on demand, I guess it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I've been enjoying the Grand Tour on Prime Now. The guys who did what do you call it?
Top Gear?
Yes, Top Gear, the original Top Gear guy.
Oh, pull that one out.
Yeah. I've been enjoying that show. I've also been secretly, to my shame, enjoying the Great British Baking Show and something else.
I love that one. I watched that one. My wife.
No, the baking show is fantastic.
Great British Baking Show.
It's one of those. It's a guilty pleasure for sure. But and again, even though the movie already came out, I just finished the book Ready Player One, which was a fantastic book, one of the best I've read.
The book is so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like the movie too? Either of you guys? I love the movie personally.
I did. It's
Ready Player One.
Like adapted screenplay or whatever you want to. Like Steven Spielberg said, well, I can't do that from the book, so I'm going to do this and accomplish the same end goal, but different method, right?
Yeah.
I was a little more lukewarm on the movie myself. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's been Predator Minute, and thanks for joining us.
Sorry, everybody that liked Ready Player One. I liked it enough. I just I'm a big fan of the book, and it was okay.
Well,
it was
the
fine.
book was way better.
Yeah, it was.
I like them about the same for different reasons, so I kind of put them on equal footing myself. But all right, we'll take that recommend. That's a solid recommend from. I was going to say Ponchito from Scott. I'm looking at your Zencaster name. All right, Jeff, Mama Fratelli, what do you have in the old recommend pot for us?
So I'm going to recommend a movie today. As many people know, I tend to lean towards the action, the horror, the genre films out there. Several months ago, I caught a new horror movie that came out I think officially came out in 2017. It became available last year on VOD, and I just recently revisited it again because it showed up on Shudder, which is a horror streaming service. And that movie is called Revenge. And it is, it's really good. It is a French film directed by a woman, and it is kind of her take on, well, there's a subgenre of horror movies. It's not the nicest of subgenres, especially back in like the 70s. It's called like the rape and revenge subgenre. Movies like Last House on the Left or I Spit on Your Grave fall into this category. This is more of a kind of a modern reimagining of that type of film. And the fact that it's directed by a woman, I think, makes it a little more interesting. But anyway, it's about a woman who is spending some time with a man who you later find out is married. And they're at kind of a desert vacation house with a pool. Things happen. Some two other men show up that are friends of the man that she's with. Things go bad. She's assaulted, and no one is there to help her. And essentially, she runs out into the desert with these three men chasing after her. And it becomes a story of her taking revenge on these three men for what happened. It's very violent, but it is also a gorgeously shot and filmed movie. I really liked it the first time I watched it, and I liked it even more when I revisited it. So if you like horror movies, this is one I definitely recommend you check out. It is streaming right now on Shudder. It is called Revenge.
Okay. Sounds like a pretty intense movie.
It is. It is quite intense. And it has some scenes in it that are unforgettable that will make you squirm in your seat, for better or for worse. But it's an incredibly well-made movie, and the ending is very satisfying. So I highly recommend it. It's a masterpiece.
All right.
If you have the stomach for it.
All right.
Well, how about you, John?
Oh, thanks for asking. I watched recently the Netflix series Russian Doll with Natasha Lyonne.
Oh, I've been wanting to check this out.
Oh, it's great in terms of length. It's super short. It's about 25-minute episodes, and there are 8 of them, as per the usual Netflix formula. And so you can end up watching this over a couple days if you really are strategizing your time wisely. But it is a great series in terms of jumping around of time. If you don't know the concept, it's a fairly commonly used concept. It's that Groundhog Day conceit where you're reliving a single day or time length over and over again, and you have to find a way out of that time loop. It's really played really well with Natasha Lyonne as the lead, Nadia. Natasha Lyonne plays such a cool character that it's all part of this character's deconstruction as the series goes on, that you're just really wanting her to find the way out, because you're watching someone essentially start to lose their mind as the day is repeated over and over and they can't figure their way out. But the way they play with the reboots every single time is super effective. If you remember the iconic song that Bill Murray was waking up to every day, the Cher and Sonny Bono song at the beginning of his day every time, hitting the alarm clock. Well, she has, I think, in this show, an even better reboot song where, as you hear it over and over again, as each one resets, like the song starts to take on a different meaning, and the way they use sound, cinematography, and the lighting is really, really showing you what kind of deconstruction that she's going through. But I highly recommend it. Russian Doll, go watch it on Netflix, and heck, you have my permission to watch the whole thing all at the same time. It's fun.
That's awesome. I didn't know that it was a Groundhog Day situation.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me want to see it even more. That's awesome.
Yeah, I watched the preview, and at first I was thinking, I don't know if that's doing much for me, but then Netflix, you know how Netflix is, they said, John, this is a 98% match. And I said, God dang, that's really high. Like, I can't say no to 98%.
How can you?
So I went for it. Yeah, how can you? So I went for it, and I do not regret it. I think it's a great series. It would be way fun to just watch it with a group of people and see as things start to change over the reboots. You can start to point each other out to like, oh, there's something else going on there, or like, here's another theory I have. It's a neat series for that kind of speculation and discussion.
Have you guys seen Happy Death Day, the horror comedy?
I've heard of it. I know the plot of the first one. Then I know they just made a second one, so you kind of know the fates of the first movie's characters.
Yeah. You talked about the Bill Murray waking up to the same song over and over again, and then they do that again in Russian Doll. They also do that in Happy Death Day. It's pretty funny too. Yeah,
awesome.
That's a good one. That's a PG-13 horror, so it might be up your alley, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm not one for strong horror thematic elements. I'm a little bit too sensitive. I'll be running up the stairs like there's a monster.
I hate that feeling. I hate it.
Yeah, I saw a really funny. Do you remember The Most Interesting Man in the World for Dos Equis? That guy. So, a few years ago, that meme was really popular. That image with the text over it, where it would say something, and then at the bottom it would be the kicker for that. And I cannot find this image right now, but and I've looked for this a few times. But the one notable meme for me was something like the top of the meme says, "I don't always run up the stairs," and then I don't always run up the stairs after watching a scary movie. And then at the bottom it just says, "Just kidding, yes I do." That totally applies to me. Just
the last time I was in my parents' house, and I'm a grown ass man, like 38 years old. Now you're coming up from downstairs, and I swear there was something hot on my heels. I hated it.
Yeah, it's just not the best feeling. But Jeff, apparently you're immune to this, and you love that feeling. I don't know.
I've been desensitized. Yeah.
To be
well, I got. Does that round us out there, John?
That rounds us out. Now we talk about where we can find each other. Hey, there you are. I found you. But Scott, you're the guest. Where can people find you?
Excitingly, I am findable on Twitter, and that would be at Scott_Fogle that's it. At Scott_Fogle. Fogle.
And Jeff, where can people find you? Hey, I found you, Scott. There you are.
Oh, you all know because you all flooded my account. You can find me at capital K Carl _H Hungus 314.
My name is Carl. Ich bin expert.
Carl Hungus 314. I'm on Twitter. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on the Instagram.
I'm looking at your Twitter profile. I just now saw that you put up the image as your profile picture of Mama Fratelli next to Central American Mama Fratelli. Oh, that is great.
Yep, come follow me to see funny profile pictures.
It has been long enough that I actually forgot that it was Carl Hungus Pie. That's perfect.
John, where can we find you and the rest of Predator Minute on the internet?
Oh, for all your dirty deeds done dirt cheap, you can find us at Predator Minute on the Twitter. We're also on Facebook, Predator Minute. And like I said before, we have a specialty Facebook group, Predator Minute Listeners Palapa. Hop on there, join up with the group, and start the discussion about something, anything, really. Just we want to see what you're all thinking about the podcast or the movie Predator or your own weekly recommends. It's fun to see what other people are listening to and watching that they would recommend. But if you have anything else to add that you just want to say, hey, I want to hear this on the show, or I have this suggestion, or this is a time where I didn't have time to bleed, then email us, predatorminute@gmail.com. For Predator Minute, I've been John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And I'm a grateful Scott Fogle.
And until next time,
stick around.
Or alternatively, I ain't got time to bleed.
I ain't got time to bleed.
You got time to duck?
You got time to duck?
Awesome.
Help me just with a little background. How did you guys know each other?
Oh, that's a long story.
If I could, John. So
yeah,
I knew Sarah before I knew John, but only briefly. Sarah started teaching across the hall from me when she took a long-term sub job across the hall from me, and then she got a full-time job there. And then, John, you were subbing, right?
Yeah, then I was subbing across the hall from Sarah.
Yeah.
And I ran over to my own subbing classroom. I was subbing for you.
You were subbing for Glover.
I was subbing for you, Jeff.
Oh, snap.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
I am instrumental in your love. You guys.
This sounds like a soap opera, guys.
So what you're basically saying
I'm
is...
keeping that line, I'm instrumental in your love.
If it wasn't,
I'm recording right now.
If it wasn't for me, you would never be married. You're welcome.
No kidding. And Scott, I don't know if at our wedding, but Jeff was the DJ at our wedding.
That's true.
Oh, okay. I was looking at old pictures of the wedding, and yeah, I could see Jeff in the background, just like smiling goofily, just like, yeah, this is doing what I love, which is kicking the hot jams on the ones and twos.
Just the block rockin' beats.
Block rockin' beats. Slow jams.
Yeah, so it was a match made in heaven. John was subbing. Sarah was a former sub.
Mm-hmm. I was subbing for you.
Yeah, you're subbing for me. That's so funny. I did not really realize that's how you guys first connected, was you were subbing for me. That's so
blows
awesome.
my mind.
Yes, that's so great.
The triangulation of the universe. It's very trigonometric, if you will.
It really is. Yeah. And so then we were teaching homies for years because you ended up getting a job at our school as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was a fun time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am instrumental in your love.